Hey there, thanks for stopping by. If this is your first time watching, please subscribe and share the video. And don't forget to leave a comment telling me where you're tuning in from. I love reading them. Let's begin. Marina had grown tired of her mother's well-worn lines. Praise dressed as critique, always delivered with a knowing look. You're capable of more. Adam's sweet, but he lacks something. One day you'll get it. She responded with poise, nodding, smiling as if unbothered. But inside, those words left bruises, not all at once, but slowly, over time. So when Diana bounced into her apartment one bright morning, all sunshine and excitement, pitching a sudden escape to Palm Beach, Marina felt a flicker of suspicion. She didn't trust the timing, or the money. Diana, ever smooth, waved it off. Closed a huge deal this week, she said with a wink. Thought I'd treat us, just you and me. It all sounded a little too polished, too convenient. Still, Marina said nothing. Maybe she was just worn thin. Maybe, deep down, she missed being chosen, missed feeling special. Adam, reliable as always, urged her to take the opportunity. You've earned a break, he told her, brushing his lips gently against her forehead. I'll be here when you get back. The second night of the trip, Diana proposed something simple. Dinner close by, just the two of them. Marina agreed without a second thought. She slipped into a soft dress, tied back her hair, and made her way downstairs, wearing a small, composed smile. But the moment she walked into the restaurant, she saw the extra place setting, and the man already seated. Blake Montgomery. She recognized him instantly. Not just his face, the idea of him, the one her mother had paraded in front of her for years. Since she was a teenager, Diana had dropped hints and painted futures with Blake at the center. And now here he was, rising from his chair with the ease of someone stepping into a role long rehearsed. Diana played it casual, saying they'd run into him at the hotel and spontaneously invited him along. But Marina wasn't fooled. The pieces clicked too neatly. This had been planned from the start. She sat down, the smile still on her face, even as her thoughts ran wild. That big deal Diana had closed? Probably a story. The real benefactor, she now realized, sat across from her. Blake didn't need confirmation. His presence said enough. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who knew the script, someone who'd helped write it. Dinner stretched on, longer than it should have. He was smooth, practiced. His compliments landed perfectly, his stories curated for maximum effect. Diana didn't miss a cue either. She chimed in on his sentences, laughed when expected, and shot Marina looks that were both affectionate and gently insistent. Marina tried to hold her ground, but something in her was loosening. The attention, the charm, it stirred something she hadn't felt in ages. Blake looked good. He knew how to speak to a moment. Just before dessert arrived, Diana excused herself, claiming she was tired. Marina saw it then. This was no spontaneous early exit. It was another step in a carefully laid plan. Blake didn't hesitate. He ordered more wine, leaned in slightly, and said in a low, assured voice, "You deserve more than the life you're clinging to. I don't know how you endure it." Marina tried to shift the subject, but the tone of the evening had already changed. She was adrift now. When his fingers brushed hers, she didn't pull away. When he leaned closer, she didn't stop him. And when his lips met hers, she responded. She didn't resist the moment. She gave in. The weight of consequence didn't touch her until much later. She woke the next morning in his hotel suite. Before breakfast, she slipped out quietly. Back in the room she shared with her mother, she moved lightly. Diana was already up, seated on the balcony like someone who'd been waiting for the silence. She turned with a calm, unreadable expression and asked, "Did you sleep well?" Marina gave a small nod and walked straight to the bathroom. She sat on the edge of the tub, eyes fixed on the tiled floor, her mind blank but for flashes of Adam, his quiet kindness, the natural way his hand found hers, the late-night talks on the couch, the peace of routine. It all felt suddenly distant. He had never done her wrong, never broken anything. The emptiness she felt now, she had made that. What Marina didn't know was that she'd been seen. An old colleague of Adam's, in town for business, had happened to stay at the same hotel. He'd noticed her stepping into the elevator with Blake, saw the way they touched in the lobby, the kiss in the corridor. Unsure but compelled, he snapped one photo, discreet, unzoomed, no flash. Then he sent it to Adam. "Hate to do this, but thought you should see." While Marina stood under the hot stream of the shower, trying to wash away the night, a phone buzzed far away. Adam opened the message, stared at the image, said nothing. He recognized Blake immediately. The man Diana had always praised, the standard he had always been measured against. "Now that's a real man," she would say, a smile never quite reaching her eyes. Adam had heard it all. And now he understood the rest, without needing her to explain. He didn't yell, he didn't call. Instead, he brewed his coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and let the silence settle in. There was nothing to ask. The picture said enough. He had loved Marina, wholly, quietly, with unwavering commitment, and he would let her go the same way. Marina still had days left in Florida. When she returned, there would be no fight, no questions, no angry declarations, just absence. His absence. And in that hollow space, she would find the echo of a life she had walked away from. For a moment, that was never truly hers. Marina came back from Palm Beach with the same bags in hand, but something fundamental had shifted inside her. The quiet on the flight home felt heavier, more suffocating than it had on the journey out. Beside her, Diana wore an expression of quiet triumph, the kind of calm that comes from believing everything was unfolding exactly as planned. In her eyes, the path had been set. All Marina needed to do now was follow it to the end. Over dinner with Blake, Diana had managed to capture a string of discreet photos, a shared laugh here, a lingering glance there, images curated to tell a story Marina hadn't consented to. She stored them carefully, waiting for the perfect moment to show them to Adam. For Diana, this divorce wasn't a tragedy, but a necessary checkpoint, a formal step toward remaking Marina into Mrs. Montgomery. She could already envision the conversations where she proudly announced that her daughter had finally made the right choice. When Marina returned home, everything looked exactly as she'd left it. The familiar scent still lingered, the photos on the walls hadn't shifted, the throw on the couch remained perfectly folded, and the keys lay untouched by the door. But something was undeniably wrong. On the kitchen table sat a plain envelope. Resting atop it, Adam's wedding band. No letter, no explanation. Inside, the finalized divorce papers stared back at her, signed and irreversible. Her breath caught. Shock mingled with shame. Frantic, she moved through the house, calling out for him, irrationally hoping he might still be in the bedroom or perhaps out on the porch, waiting to talk things through. But every room echoed with absence. He was gone, and with him, any chance at a conversation. She called his phone. At first the line was declined, then calls went directly to voicemail. She texted again and again, starting with hesitant words and eventually pouring out long, emotional messages that tried to explain what she herself barely understood. In one message she typed, "I lost myself for a moment and instantly hated the simplicity of it." A moment, as if that's all it had been. But she knew better. It hadn't been a slip. It had been a choice, one shaped by pressure but still undeniably hers. When Diana heard days later that Adam had made the filing official, she barely contained her satisfaction. She masked her reaction with practiced concern, but her relief was transparent. To her, this was progress. With Adam gone, Blake faced no obstacles. There was no longer a regular man muddying the narrative. Things accelerated quickly. The divorce was clean, uncontested, over. Adam didn't ask for anything, only distance. Diana seized the opportunity, reminding Marina this was her chance to begin again with someone worthy of her, someone Diana had long deemed suitable. Reeling and emotionally adrift, Marina let herself be swept along by the current. She said yes to another dinner with Blake, unsure of her feelings but too numb to object. She accepted his compliments, the gifts he offered, and the approving looks from her mother. Before long, she found herself appearing at functions by his side, her hand tucked effortlessly into the crook of his arm, a picture-perfect pairing with one of the state's most influential heirs. The image was flawless, the poised divorcee reclaiming her life with elegance, aligning herself with power, security, and charm. It was everything Diana had hoped for. Blake knew exactly how to present the illusion. He sold the dream of stability with practiced ease. Marina played her part, even as a hollow feeling slowly took root inside her. She thought about Adam in the smallest of ways, the way he folded her clothes, the space he always claimed in bed, the quiet patience he offered when her thoughts tangled. Life with Blake felt curated. He could make her smile, yes, but the joy never lasted. She became skilled at pushing down her discomfort, smiling through it for the sake of appearances. Everyone around her said she looked radiant. Everyone but Marina herself. Weeks in, she began to pick up on small inconsistencies in Blake's behavior. He avoided anything that resembled vulnerability, deflected questions about his family's enterprises, and became strangely evasive whenever journalists approached at public events. He'd whisper something vague, then quickly lead her away. She tried to ignore it, to dismiss her unease as paranoia, but the feeling that something wasn't right kept returning. Then one morning, without warning, everything exploded. News of the scandal hit like a lightning strike. Still in bed, Marina grabbed her phone with shaking hands. The first headline felt like a physical blow. Blake Montgomery under federal investigation for tax evasion. More followed. Accusations of money laundering, offshore funds, the entire Montgomery family entangled in legal disaster. A judge had ordered a freeze on their assets. Their estates had been raided, and Blake had been detained for questioning. Marina sat up, stunned and trembling. She tried calling him. The line was dead. When she reached her mother, Diana sounded breathless, glued to the live broadcast. She insisted it had to be some kind of mistake, but the footage made the truth undeniable. The Montgomery being escorted out by authorities, luxury vehicles towed away, their empire crumbling for all to see. The world Marina had stepped into vanished in a single day. The privileges, the polished reputation, the security, all gone like smoke. The name that once opened every door now shut them firmly in her face. And in the eyes of the public, she had transformed from an elegant symbol of reinvention into the unfortunate girlfriend of a disgraced heir. But the real wound wasn't in the headlines. It was in recognizing that her mother still didn't see any of it as a mistake. Diana looked like someone who had wagered everything on the wrong person and lost it all. Once so sure of Blake's promise, she now stood hollowed out, her confidence stripped away with his imprisonment and their wealth frozen. All that remained was the bitter aftertaste of a decision that couldn't be undone. The smugness that once clung to her so naturally had vanished, replaced by the somber shadow of consequences. And for the first time, Marina began questioning the beliefs she had once accepted without resistance. The scandal still buzzed through the media when Diana appeared unannounced at Adam's front door. She hadn't called ahead. No warning, no message, just her sudden arrival, as if the chaos of recent events had shattered all sense of propriety. She jabbed the doorbell once, then again, forcefully. By the time he opened the door, her face was streaked with tears. Her mascara had bled down her cheeks. Her hair was hastily pulled back, and she looked utterly spent, as though sleep had abandoned her days ago. Adam didn't say a word. He stood in the doorway, his hand resting on the knob, waiting. Diana drew in a trembling breath and pressed her hands to her chest, as though trying to hold herself together. She said she needed to speak. He stepped aside, and let her in without responding. Once inside, she sank into the couch, struggling to keep her mask intact. But it crumbled quickly. Her voice faltered as she confessed everything. How she had always tried to steer Marina away from him, brushing him off as ordinary and elevating Blake as the better choice. She admitted that she'd taken it upon herself to shape her daughter's future, believing she was doing what was best. Only now did she understand how deeply she'd misjudged everything. She spoke of Marina's distant gaze, her silence, the way she moved listlessly through their home like a shadow. Diana claimed that burden. She wasn't there to justify her actions. She came because her shame had finally surpassed her pride. She apologized for every sly comment, every dismissive glance, every moment she had worked to make Adam seem small in Marina's eyes. Adam listened without interruption. The sharp sting of heartbreak had long since worn away, leaving only a quiet sorrow he'd grown used to carrying. Her words didn't hurt anymore, but they brought no comfort either. When she finally fell silent, waiting for a response, he stood, walked to a nearby shelf, and pulled down a small box. Inside were fragments of a life he once thought was real. Photographs, notes, mementos of a love that had unraveled. He handed the box to her with a steady voice and an unreadable expression. He said he had kept those pieces because for a long time he believed they still mattered. But now, they felt like remnants of a weight he no longer needed. She could take them. Perhaps they would serve as a reminder that not all wounds can be healed. Diana tried to speak, something about growth, about how people deserve second chances. But Adam didn't budge. He told her he had spent years trying to find a place in a family that never truly welcomed him. He'd endured the veiled insults, the indifference, the patronizing smiles, all for the sake of his love for Marina. But that love had been cast aside, left behind, and now he was simply a man who had made peace with moving on. He told Diana he forgave her, but forgiveness wasn't the same as reconciliation. He had moved past the resentment, out of the spotlight, and into a quiet life where he had found his own peace. And for the first time, Diana understood. Really understood. She stood up, whispered a thank you, and walked out, clutching the box like a relic from the ruins of a life she had helped tear down. Back at home, she bore a new kind of weight. She told Marina she had failed her, not once, but twice. First by ending something real, and again by thinking it was hers to fix. There was no Blake to swoop in this time, no elaborate scheme to restore their old lives. Marina lay on her bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Diana entered the room quietly, sat beside her, and told her everything, every detail, every truth. She told her Adam had moved on, no dramatics, no tears, just a quiet acceptance spoken by someone who finally realized what she had cost them. Marina didn't cry. She simply closed her eyes and let out a long, weary breath, as if acknowledging what had been lost. Nothing could be rebuilt. The illusion had shattered. And the only person who had truly loved her was now just a memory, stored in the keepsakes Diana left on the living room table. In the weeks that followed, Marina stepped into the bleak reality she had long ignored. The rooftop dinners Blake once hosted were just echoes now. The sleek car he used to drive her around was gone, seized. His phone number no longer worked. His messages had vanished. The reckoning came when police knocked on Diana's door, asking about the extravagant gifts Blake had given Marina. Reality hit hard. The designer watches, the expensive handbags, the deep blue gemstone necklace she had once worn proudly to a fundraiser, every item was now part of an investigation. Marina had to return them all, relinquishing not only the luxury, but the fragments of a fabricated life that was never hers to keep. Her once polished image, associated with charm and upscale romance, turned into whispered jokes and digital mockery. The very people who once admired her from behind velvet ropes now reduced her to a cautionary tale in private chats. She stopped attending events. She let the phone ring. She stopped answering the door. On the rare occasions she went outside, to grab groceries or take a quiet walk, she felt the stares, not cruel exactly, but heavy with judgment and pity. Everyone seemed to know she had chosen illusion over authenticity and ended up with nothing in return. She tried to distract herself with routine, but her thoughts always circled back to one moment. Adam's gaze, steady and calm, as he handed Diana that box. It haunted her. Nothing felt untouched by it. Diana, for once, was silent too. She had no advice to give, no pep talks left to offer, no schemes to propose. Her days were filled with silence, withered plants, and unopened mail. The credit cards were canceled. The Montgomery name, once a symbol of elegance and influence, had become a warning sign, spoken now only in the same breath as debts, legal battles, and disgrace. One after another, the opportunities dried up. Invitations disappeared without a trace. The phone stopped ringing. She attempted to rid herself of the past, selling her clothes, parting with jewelry, shedding any remnants of that former life, but nobody wanted possessions tied to that name. It was as if the association alone tainted everything it touched. Her entire family found themselves cast out from the city's elite, and with their fall went the life Diana had once counted on simply by being nearby. With no paths left open, the two of them gathered what they had and returned to the weathered house on New Jersey's edge, the very one where Marina had grown up and Diana had always dismissed as unworthy of them. Now, there was no escape from the narrow rooms they'd both once longed to flee. The moment they entered, Diana caught her foot on a split in the floorboards that had been there for decades. She hesitated, scanned the shadowy interior, and muttered that fate had finally caught up with her. Marina stayed silent. She walked past her mother, went straight into the bedroom of her childhood, closed the door, and collapsed onto the bed without changing. There were no tears, no shouts, just stillness and a long, vacant stare at the ceiling. Sleep came eventually, but it felt more like sinking than resting. Each day bled into the next. The only sound that marked morning was the faint hum of lawn mowers in far-off yards. Marina would get up, nibble at breakfast, mindlessly scroll through her phone, and then crawl back beneath the blankets. Her social profiles were empty now. She had erased every picture with Blake, deleted every trace of designer weekends and glittering events. One photo remained, just her and Adam, grinning on a worn rug, captured during an unremarkable afternoon. That one hurt the most. No luxury in it, no status, only something genuine. She tried to write him a letter. Nearly 2 pages poured out, full of guilt, confession, and clarity. How blind she had been, how deeply she missed him, how sorry she was. But after finishing, she tore it to shreds. She realized it then. He didn't need more apologies. He had already listened too long. His patience had been immense, and she had used it all. If peace had finally found him, she had no right to disturb it. She folded the torn remains into the pages of an old novel and let silence take over once again. One evening, as Diana stood in the kitchen, stirring dinner, she asked if Marina wanted to help. Marina paused, then quietly said she'd rather not touch anything. Diana nodded. It wasn't about the food, it was about everything else. Their exchanges were brief now, almost mechanical. The gap between them had become fixed, untouched by time, by disgrace, by the loss they shared. Some weeks later, Marina idly reopened her social media and began scrolling. Her thumb stopped on a picture. Adam, smiling. Beside him, a woman sat with unforced grace, simply dressed, with a calm and open expression. They were in a park, sitting on the grass, drinking coffee from reusable cups. No spotlight, no spectacle, just peace. Yet it struck Marina hard. Not with jealousy, but recognition. He had healed. He had stepped into a life she no longer remembered how to reach. No resentment, no burden, just ease. She closed the app, set the phone aside, and lay back, once again staring into stillness. There was no mending the break, Only clarity remained. And now, she had that. Some decisions don't just linger, they build, layer by layer. Some exits aren't marked, they dissolve. And love, when cast away, doesn't shout, it whispers. Quietly, endlessly. For the rest of your life, this story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.